you up. Oh, mate. Yeah, you go and lay my bed. Sorry about that, mate. This is all Turkish's fault, yeah. No, I've got that past 7. What's that, mate? Point deduction. Yeah, I I'll wake up.
We are recording, so let's get into it.
Where what?
How's it going, people?
Sorry, don't feel too bad. That he's a Spurs supporter, don't we?
Oh, no, I'm all right. People, we are back. We are recording, and as you can see, there's been a bit of a hiccup this morning. Let's call it a hiccup. I failed to hear my alarm, so I'm a little bit late. Not that late, just a little bit late. And there's already talk about a point deduction. Obviously, I got the correct score this week. We will see the league table shortly. I'm sure Lee is the leader of the protest right now, considering he's off top spot. His nephew there talking about a point deduction too, but he's a Spurs. So, we don't listen to them much, do we? Go on, Lee.
I'd just like to say it's got nothing to do with that I've been knocked off the top of the table. It's a ridiculous scenario now. We have been in like poor Jordan, who gets a lot of criticism on this show from people, was in the studio at 7:45. Then it was me and James. And, it is holiday time, and I think that this is not the first time.
No, repeat offender.
A repeat offender. Now, what do you do? Now, I like to see what the comments have got to say about this. What do you do with a repeat offender? Do you just carry on letting him do it, or do you put in a punishment? I think that's all I'm asking. That is all I'm asking.
It's a fair question, Lee. It's a fair question.
Thank you.
So, okay, as the defense in this court, I'm gonna say that I feel like, yes, I put my hands up, repeat offender. But the punishment needs to be set moving forward rather than being punished in hindsight.
You can't say, "Oh, sorry, Judge, I know I killed someone yesterday, but from now on, let's
I'm not allowed to do it."
If there was no laws against it up until that moment, I'm sorry, but you can. I'm sorry, but
I love that logic. I know I'm a repeat offender, but I promise from here on in, let's set some rules and punishments.
This is where law and order came into it all those hundreds of years back. This is how, someone was late a couple of times. But we'll let I want to say we'll let the chat decide, but I don't even trust them to be.
Yeah. Well, if the chat
I'll tell you what, if you let your mum decide, she'd probably go against you. I'll tell you on this one, I'm being serious. You know what I mean? I think you've had it myself personally.
I think it's a point
hold
Turkish.
Up my hands, I'm taking a point deduction.
Yeah, I think it's a point Turkish. It's got to be a point. Come on, it's the third time.
if there's ever a week to lose a point, it's this one.
It's this week, yeah.
Because you've done well. You need him. I'm going to call Shirai.
Listen, we could have done with Shirai this morning.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's a very good point. Let's let Shirai make the decision.
All right, that's cool. fair. That's fair. Shirai's a fair man. Yes, that's a good shout.
Shirai, I want to explain the circumstance. There's been no laws yet, so I haven't broken any laws. I've offended a couple times. I've been late, yes. But there was no laws against being late. Now we're trying to implement laws. So Shirai, as someone that knows the legal system somewhat better than we all do here, I don't think you should listen to Jordan. That is for sure.
Can I just say,
what happens when you listen to Jordan?
It's true. That is true. Granted, good point. My case for prosecution is to Shirai. If it was down to me and Lee, it'd be 2 points. So we're actually being quite generous. So I'm just going to say that.
I'm actually saying all three because because it's at least 3 times that he's done this. You know what I mean? and honestly, it's not about the points of where I am in the table.
He's got to learn.
It's about discipline to the show because this is about. I would say he's now getting into double digits on this. This is getting serious things, right? You know what I mean? Like, he's now a serial. He's not just a killer. He's a serial one, like, you know what I mean?
Not just a killer. Serial
Also,
one.
Christmas has just come past, and we did say we'd get him a new alarm clock. I don't need an alarm clock because he's worth it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
None of you got
Sure.
another
It's
case.
down to you, mate.
Another case from the defense, Shiroi. They told me they'll get me an alarm to stop it happening. They didn't.
Postal strike.
I haven't got it yet. So either Royal Mail or someone's to blame here. So, you know, we'll leave it with you, Shiroi. Let us know, Shiroi, what you think in the comment section. I'll pin the comment once I see it from you. Just know you're my brother, yeah? We go way back.
Giving backhanders now. They said, what's going on here? Corruption as well.
That's definitely
You know
2
what I
points
mean?
now.
Yeah.
Definitely 2 points now. Brown envelopes all over the
Because
gap.
he's worried. He's worried about it. You know what I mean? Hey,
To be honest,
I'll
2
get you on
points
every
doesn't
week.
mean
You know
much.
what I mean? I'll
Let
get
me
you on
bring the
every
table
week.
up whilst I still got the points on the board.
Oh wow,
Table
yeah.
up whilst I still got the points on the board.
What is the score? What is the score? 21.
Those are crucial points.
That was a crucial point.
So for our audio listeners, Turkish is currently on 21. Lee's second on 20. James is third with 18. And Jordan Jarrett Bryan is fourth with 15.
Even if I got deducted 6 points, I'll still be third.
It's true.
And I have to say, well done for getting it. You know what I mean? I don't know if you was listening to the comments, but I was watching the game. Obviously, I was at the game, and Jordan's got on there and said, like, you know, that's me gone, and then Cass put in there, yes, but it's looking good for certain. I forgot he had 3-1. I'm going, oh no, you know what I mean? Banging it, come on, get a goal. And then when Ramsdale's made that save, I've gone, oh yes, great stuff. I couldn't enjoy that last 10 minutes. I'm not looking at the comments no more. But no, well done for that. That was great to get that 3-1. Good call. Good call.
Thank you. Let's just see what Shiroi makes of the case before you say well done. And I take away my, pride in that achievement because, yeah, I might not be top after Shiroi's done with me, but we'll see. We'll see. Cool, people. We are here. It is Forever Arsenal. We have made it. As you could probably tell, it's another 8 a.m.er. Not necessarily 8 a.m. because I was about to say...
It's almost 10 now, to be fair. But,
yeah?
It's actually New Year's Eve.
For the viewers out there, yeah. Fucking viewers, 8:43. Don't listen to him. Yeah. That's part of my defense case as well. So, Shiroi, as you can see, it's not that late. It wasn't murder. It might have been a bit of, GBH or something, but it's not
a bit of GBH.
It wasn't murder. Cool. Arsenal did return on Boxing Day against West Ham London derby. We've already discussed, the result of it, 3-1, and me achieving that result with my prediction. We'll see what happens with the league table. I will bring it up later in the show when we make our next predictions for Brighton away New Year's Eve. But on the West Ham game, a few talking points to say the least. Nice to see Arsenal back. That's for sure. Lee, I'm going to send it straight over to you. You was at the game.
Yeah.
Jordan, you did watch the game, yeah?
Yeah. Wow. Is that where we are now?
It's going really low now, really low. We're having a snake's belly, I'll tell you, totally unnecessary.
It's a low blow.
James is my only friend on this show right now.
Low blow.
Listen, let me just come clean. I still owe Lee 20 quid, so I'm in no position to lecture anyone. So I'm just sitting here quietly. I don't know an Arsenal podcast I don't know a football podcast in the world in which, before entering the discussion, we just need to check in on who actually watched it.
All right, James. All right, mate. All right. I missed a couple of games. Friendlies as well,
No,
you should pay your debts, Jordan. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to bring it up, Lee. I didn't want to bring it up.
There's faults in everybody on this pod. I think there's one that don't get to them, one that don't pay his debts, one don't watch any football, and it's just me left. It's just unreal, isn't it?
It's just me left. Because you're perfect, aren't you?
Well, I ain't got much competition, have I? Really?
If I get punished for this lateness, yeah, then sorry, there's a punishment in place for not watching the games as well. But
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's
we'll
fair.
talk about
That's fair.
that later.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
There'd be no points to take off, Jordan, to be fair.
What is this? What's going on here?
Sorry. Let's go.
Yes,
Lee,
I did watch it, but Lee, go on. You
Yeah, I think me and James spoke about this. I was absolutely buzzing for the game, but the atmosphere wasn't as good as what I expected it to be, if I'll be really honest. And I think that was down to that we were back, and there was those little nerves set in. I was certainly nervous. And after that first half, I was even more nervous. I can tell you that now. I thought it was going to be one of those games. And I'm not going to lie. You know, I think I'm not alone when I'm saying this. I was panicking a little bit. Let's get Vieira on. Let's get Eddie off. You know what I mean? I heard that a few times, and I was sort of agreeing with it, like, you know, because it just weren't happening for him first half. And I'm going to say, I have to say, I'm going to pay him some tremendous congratulations for his performance, because the mentality of that, because I'm pretty sure as he walked in at half time 1-0, people were blaming him, and he must have felt that. And it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault that we was 1-0 down. It was just one of those things. But there was a lot of pressure on that. But I'm going to say this: the second half, I thought Arsenal were outstanding it, and I actually put on Twitter that it was a big statement win, and people were taking it. It's only West Ham. I don't care about who it was. It was. I care about Arsenal, and Arsenal had to react, and they did. And I'm so pleased with the way they done it. And the biggest cheer that I got, even though it knocked me off the top of the table, thank you, Eddie, was the goal that he got. Like, you know what I mean? It was superb. It was an absolutely brilliant goal from start to finish. The build up and the turn and finish from him. I actually, I don't know if it was on one TV, turned around and said, "Oh, it was poor defending." You know what I mean? I can't even give the kid credit for what he done. Like, you know, I thought it was a great goal, and that was a big boost for us boys for that. And I know it sounds silly, but when you're at the game, you do panic a little bit, and you do have a little bit of nervousness. So I'm not having a go at the atmosphere and all that. I can see why. When you actually get home and watch it again, when I've watched it, the extended highlights, something you should do every now and then, Jordan. But anyway, that's another story, like, you know. I looked at it. We played really well all game, you know. And I'm not going to lie, I was panicking at half time. But when I look back on it, I shouldn't have been, because we played really well from start to finish. It was just a mad moment. I think Saliba was probably just not quite sharp enough. He got better as the game went on. But for me, I thought it was a really good performance all round for 90 minutes, even though we went a goal down.
Yeah, pretty much agree with everything you said there. Now, the first half, I don't know. Going in 1-0 behind, it didn't seem like it was the right scoreline, considering the possession we had, the domination. It's just that when you look at the chances created, that's where we kind of failed to really make the goalkeeper work. I think it was one Granit Xhaka shot in the first half on his weak foot that the keeper had to save. Odegaard in that first half, he was trying to pick the locks. It wasn't working for him. I know in the second he got his 2 assists. Eddie, you know, he had his moments in the first half too, but like you said, at times it just felt like it was going to be one of those days. I did want Vieira on at one point. I wanted Vieira on to get into the box to an Eddie, who I would have preferred to be, you know, staying in and around the danger zone to you know, get at the end of things. But in the end, you know, between Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and then Eddie and Nketiah, we got the job done, and I think it was a well-deserved result. You started with Eddie, so I'll continue with Eddie. He needed that. We needed that. And by we, I mean the fans too, because, you know, I mentioned on my fan cam how many doubters he's had and has. I am one of them. But like I said on my fan cam, the best for him is the best for us. And I want the best for him. I want him to, you know, shut me up and have other doubters up. And he started in that right manner. Forget Juventus, forget AC Milan and Lyon, forget the Dubai Cup and all of that nonsense. This is the Premier League now. This is where, you know, your name is made. This is where your chance is taken. And Jesus being out for the period he's out for, we needed him to come in, Eddie, and hit the ground running. And I think he did that against West Ham. he got the third goal, and it was a beautiful goal as well. Ball played into him, spun the defender without taking a touch, and just buried it bottom corner. So yeah, big credit to Eddie. Before I do move on to other players, because there is other players to talk about. Jordan, let's go to you next. But we will move on to James as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, Lee starting off talking about the atmosphere and saying that it was a bit nervous being there, because watching it on TV, it looked the opposite. It looked like the fans, excuse me, it looked like the fans are really up for it and buoyant. So, Lee was there, so I'll defer to him. But on the TV, it didn't seem like the fan base were particularly nervous. Where I disagree with Lee is the fact where he mentions he was nervous and it was a bit panicky, because I actually thought we were playing well enough in the first half that I wasn't panicking. I actually believed that if we keep doing what we were doing, the goal was going to come. There are some games over the years where Arsenal play where you're like, yeah, this is going to be one of those games. I can feel it. We're not playing great in this first half. We're 1-0 down. This is going to be one of those games. I didn't think that. I don't think anyone apart from a Spurs fan or a Man City fan would have genuinely 1-0 down at half time thought Arsenal are in trouble here, because we were doing the right things. And Lee, you mentioned it in the when you watched it back on TV, we actually played really, really well. We had no cutting edge in that first half, granted, but I wasn't panicky at all. I was actually quite confident that as long as we kept on doing the right things, we would get the goals and we would win the game. West Ham didn't really have, they had the counter threat, and with Antonio and Bowen, and Ben Rama, they are a threat. But I wasn't overly concerned about them as long as we kind of handled our own business. So I thought it was a great performance from Arsenal. I thought it was really, really good. I was really pleased. On Nketiah, again, I'm really glad for him. He needed a goal. I put in the group when it was 1-1 or 2-1. I put in our group that he needs to score today. There's goals here today, and it's not going to be many games where strikers of his level you think can get a goal at home. Fan base are up. He's got to score today, if not only for his own confidence, but I think to show the league and the team and the fan base, I can score at this level, and I can be the guy to, at least in the short term, get Arsenal through his next couple of months. So I thought the goal was really, really crucial and really important. If I'm being super picky, if I'm being super critical, and I'm being uber critical here as well, it was the third goal. And what I mean by that is there'll be games where it'll be tight, where we need Eddie Nketiah to get the first goal, or the goal that puts us in front. When we're 2-1 up and we're on top, those are the easier goals to score. And I'm being super critical here, because there will be games where it'll be tight and you need your forward to be the difference. I remember Lukaku got accused of that for many, many years. He was very good at getting the second, third, and fourth goal, and he was what they call stat pads. Lukaku's a good striker. I don't want to do Lukaku down, but if you look at the amount of goals over his career, especially at United that he did score, he scored quite a lot of goals. But how many goals were winners? How many goals were the first goal in a crucial game? The top strikers, of which he aims to be, Eddie Nketiah, they get the first goal. They get the goal when it's tight. So if I'm being super, I know the comments are going to come for me, but I'm being super critical here. But I'm being critical because it won't be as easy as it was against West Ham, against, say, Brighton, where you're going to need centre forward to be the difference. But I've got some thoughts on other players as well, but I'll defer to James. But I thought Nketiah was brilliant. I'm so glad for him. That goal was an Ian Wright type goal. That for me was an Ian Wright. It just had flashbacks of Ian Wright for me. The movement, the turn, and the finish. It wasn't Henry. It wasn't Van Persie. That was Ian Wright at his best. And I think if Eddie Nketiah is going to be anyone for us this season, it's going to be Sylvain Wiltord. He has to be that Sylvain Wiltord guy that comes in, scores 7 to 10 goals, but in crucial games. So anyway, I'm big up Eddie Nketiah. I'm glad he scored. We move.
Yeah.
And you know, we had to really get onto the comment section, didn't we, Turkish, during the watch along, because I think it's not everyone, and maybe sometimes I'm focusing on the minority here, because when I was sort of chatting to people about the game, the people I sort of talk to often, that they were sort of very praising of Eddie's performance and also defending him in that first half. But I think for some people it was, Arsenal 1-0 down, having been pretty brilliant all season. What's the difference? Eddie's leading the line instead of Jesus. therefore there's a problem. We haven't scored. And I thought Eddie was far from the problem that first half. I just thought he was looking quite sharp, and I think you could see there are a couple turns, twists. There are things he was doing that he'd get the first bit right, then he might lose at the second pass, or his flicker, his run in behind, and then the flick over the defender, brilliant. And then the left to Saka he gets wrong. It's like, okay, but you can see he was looking sharp and he was doing some nice things. And all the focus was there when I think we had to look at the fact that actually I thought the centre-backs looked a little shaky that first half. I mean, who you quite blame for why the penalty came around? But let's be honest, Saliba doesn't cover himself in glory. Now, I'm going to give him credit in that I was saying that I really felt he needed to start. What I didn't say in the podcast was I sort of needed him to start because I think it would have shown me like a level of commitment that I'd have really appreciated. All the players getting back, and I wanted to see that he wanted to be available for that game. I had no doubt he would be. That's why I never really phrased it in that way. I was delighted he played, but you could see that he was slightly rusty compared to either players that had the mid-season training or players that had played regularly at the World Cup. He had neither. So it was just a little bit of a rusty performance, but he grew into it, and whatever. Players can make mistakes. He's still incredibly young, and actually he was not at it for his level. Otherwise, Saliba was still very, very good. And that first half, other than that, it's funny because when you look at previous Arsenal games in which they've not scored in the first half or whatever, especially kind of in the first 2 years of Arteta, we've now just had the third year. In the first 2 years, it was Arsenal aren't scoring, but they don't really look like they're going to find the openings either. Yeah, there was a lack of real cutting-edge chances and craft in terms of that first half, in the final third. But generally, I thought you could see that if we just, if Odegaard slips it to Martinelli wide rather than trying to slip it through the fullback and centre-back, then maybe, we actually create a chance out of it. And there are a few moments like that. And then the second half, we got our act together a little bit more efficient in the second half, and we put them to bed. So I was delighted, and I was really happy for Eddie because I thought he deserved that goal for his performance, and Arteta said as much. And it's funny because he could have not scored that goal. We could have won 3-1. And I would have felt the same about his performance, but a lot of people might not have. So I'm glad he just had that moment that, kind of everyone had that moment of relief. Like, oh, okay, at least in these level of games, with all due respect to West Ham, it was a good side. They didn't play well, but they got very good players. At least, Eddie can score. And I think we knew that anyway, but some people needed reminding, and fair enough.
I think with Eddie, I think I've got to say, sorry, that he's not a Jesus. He's a different forward, like in certain things. And James makes a great point there. He done saying in that first half, and he's just got to lay it off, and we score, and he doesn't do it straight away. It's like, he's not good enough. You know what I mean? And I'm guilty of it. He isn't Jesus in that area. But when you go back to that goal, I've seen Jesus do that and then, miss. And there's a definite, that's all right, it's Jesus. But, there seems to be more emphasis on, right, well, Eddie's got to get that goal, which he did. So let's say that, for instance, that's what he did. That's what he done, and he's done that. So if he misplaces a pass, like he did in the first half, then you've got to give him the same sort of slack as you give Jesus when he misses chances. Do you see what I'm saying? But there's this thing at this moment with Eddie, and I feel for him. I really do feel for him because it's, he's not good enough. And I think, people slagged him off because he's got the number 14 shirt and things like that. That doesn't bother me. But I think somebody said to me after the game, look at, he come in against Chelsea under pressure. I remember going to that game with Chelsea, and I'm guilty of it myself. I don't mind admitting it. The fans were going into the game singing, "If Eddie plays for Arsenal, so can I." You know what I mean? Against Chelsea away. And he put in a performance where everybody was singing Eddie, Eddie at the end of it. A little bit like, on the game. And I thought it was fantastic support for him after the game. And I will say the fans and that are going to back him. And I just think that they're going to back him, but there's always that niggling doubt in the back of your mind that he's not good enough. That's a real tough thing for him to say. Just one thing on the fans, I will say that when we went 1-0 down, I thought we got behind the team really, really well.
You can hear that. You can hear that on
was
TV.
something there. Even though I felt there was a little bit of a nervousness around, there was no moaning and groaning, and it was a good response. And by the end, by the way, it was fantastic for the whole, the whole fan base at the end was singing Eddie, Eddie, and that, that I think can be a very, very defining moment to him. If he goes on there and nicks one against Brighton, and I know that people might criticise you, Jordan, for what you're saying, but you know what? That's a great point that you said about him. If he can get the winner against Brighton now, then it's 2-2, and I think he done really well yesterday on Boxing Day. I thought Eddie played well.
I do want to say as well. I mean, the way I was talking there, sort of like, he proved some of you wrong, but I'm not. Again, I feel like I need to make this point. I'm not trying to say, see, Eddie's world class. You're all right. It's not about, but there's just like there is such a negativity towards him on one side that I feel the need to kind of like almost, and call it out more. And I know that no one on this pod, nor most people I speak to, actually even feel that way about Eddie Nketiah at all. But whether they rate him massively or not. But I just, you were there during the watch along, Turkish. I honestly, I couldn't believe how much people were pointing the finger in that direction, for what was going wrong. And, he does feel like the kind of player who every bad pass, actually Dan Potts said it on Full Time, every bad pass is going to be looked at more than any other bad pass. Odegaard, I was watching a Odegaard comp, one of those that goes around on Twitter, and he was sensational, my man of the match, don't get me wrong, but that comp included quite a few misplaced passes. He was getting credit for the attempt, that Xhaka one but the one where he runs in behind, and it was like, they were what vision. It's like, but it didn't get to him, did it? So what I'm saying is, look at the way Odegaard is sometimes viewed as, well, the attempt and the idea was brilliant. So, we're going to chuck it on this Twitter comp. And it was a great comp, by the way. He was fantastic. My point is, I don't know why Eddie is just judged so differently. Maybe it's because he doesn't have the history that Odegaard has in terms of performances the last year and a half. Maybe it's because of the doubt. Maybe it's because of the lack of depth on the bench. And it's because ultimately people are keeping this frustration of, cool, we have Eddie, but we know we need more. We need to do business. It could be any of those things. But I just feel the need to kind of stick up for him even more recently. And I'm just so happy for him.
Sorry, go on, you can pick up.
No, I was going to say, I've definitely been one of those fans that haven't rated him. And like I've mentioned before, I've had big doubts about it. But once the contract was signed and the shirt was given, listen, it did, grind my gears at the time. But when I look at the transfer window and I look at the business we've done and I look at the money we spent and then I look at the money we spent over the last year before that too, missing out the January window, of course, I thought to myself, it's something the club probably had to do, show a bit of faith and, commitment and, spend the money wisely in other areas because we haven't got an endless pit of money like some other clubs do. And I just thought to myself, listen, I hope Jesus doesn't get injured this season, because I have my doubts with Eddie, but he did get injured. And the pressure we talk about now, it can be make or break. And I just keep on going back to that Eddie moment with Sambi Lokonga on All or Nothing when, Sambi seemed a bit down about not playing enough games. And Eddie was kind of like, listen, who are you? Like, you have to, we're all in the same sort of position here. We all want to play more games. And I feel like his character is one that can use this pressure and use this doubt in his favor. It is his time now. He's no longer a young player. He's 23, turning 24 this coming year. He's had more than a handful of games for Arsenal, both starting and off the bench over the years. He's had a couple loan spells. He done well at the end of last season, and Arteta showed faith in him. Not only at the end of the contract, but towards the end of the season when he was asked about Eddie, he said, if Eddie hasn't played enough, it's on me. It's not on him. He has the qualities. He's shown me enough to be a part of the squad. But his chance came in the end with Lacazette misfiring, or not firing at all, to be honest, not even misfiring. And now it's just Eddie's chance. And I hope he takes it on and scores against Brighton. I think it was Jordan last show that said it'll probably be unfair to expect him to score against the Tottenhams and Man Uniteds and Man Cities and decide those games. But the West Hams, the Brightons, dare I say, the Newcastles, even though Newcastle are flying high at the moment and have hit the ground running off the back of the World Cup too. Those are the games I'm looking at and saying, Eddie, over these 16 games you're about to play, maybe more, maybe less, depending on Jesus' injury stuff. 9-10 goals out of you. I think that would be a great return.
The things I saw, I think it was your show, Turkish, with Robbie, where you were talking about Eddie Nketiah, and one of you asked the other one, how many goals do you expect from Eddie Nketiah? And I think the question is valid, but for me, it's not even about. I think you all agreed on I think you said 10 goals between now and May.
One with me and Laurie.
Was it you and Laurie? That's right. Yeah.
I said 9. He said 10. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 10 goals would be great. For me, what's more important is who are you scoring against? Because he could score 15 goals, but if he's scoring, as I mentioned, the goals, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, or against, the teams. Me personally, I'm looking for him to score goals against the teams from 6th down. From 6th place down, I'm looking for him to score. And if he gets 7 goals, but there's 7 winners against West Ham, Leicester, Wolves, Palace, whatever it may be, I'd much rather take that than him scoring in a 3-1 defeat to Man City. Or because I don't think he's of that level to be the guy to lead us to a victory against a City or a Liverpool. So for me, how many goals he scores between now and May is up for debate. We could discuss that. But for me, what's more important is who are you scoring against and under what circumstances? That for me is almost more important than him getting 10 goals. I'll take 5 winners. 5 goals, but they're 5 winners. I'll take that. That's 15 points. Do you know what I mean? So that for me is more important. And I'll just say broadly on the team, what I think we're doing really well, which I really, really like, and we're getting better at, is the recycling of attacks. And what I mean by that is we had West Ham penned in for large parts of that match. And we've been over the years quite bad at keeping the pressure on. But what I noticed on Monday was that when we didn't get the first one, it was go again, get it wide, get it back to the midfield to, in basketball, we call it swing it, goes to the right. No, nothing there. Cool. Back to the center, try the left again. Nope, try dink it in. And you try different things to get a goal. But it's just keeping that pressure on and believing it's a pressure cooker. But the more chances that you create, the more you keep them penned in, the more chance of scoring a goal you're going to have. And we're getting very, very good at that. I think Eddie Nketiah, I will give man of the match just because I think of the pressure he was under and he got the goal. But I thought the 2 midfield, he who shall not be named and Partey, I thought were absolutely brilliant. I thought Partey was brilliant in that first half in particular at just being the lock and the safety, just being that guy that everyone was going forward, I'm going to protect and mop up. I thought Partey in that first half was brilliant. I thought the second half, I thought it was good. He who shall not be named, I thought, again, was phenomenal. I thought it was brilliant. Odegaard got man of the match. He wasn't my man of the match, but I think in that second half, he was the best player on the pitch. As well. I'm not going to wax lyrical about Saka too much because I've done that in the past, but I think we just have to, he reminded us in that second half in particular, we have got an absolute star on our hands. Saka is an absolutely phenomenal talent. I can't talk well enough about him. And finally, just going back to the penalty that we conceded, I think it was James mentioned Saliba being rusty and who was at fault. I think the initial error was Saliba's error. I think he went to jump and he mistimed a bouncing ball. I'd actually kind of put a bit of blame on Partey in that. I think it's the one thing Partey got wrong. I think we have to look at where the protection was in that particular part of the pitch. I'm not sure I would put all the blame on Saliba. I think there's a lack of that layer of protection from our midfield, of which I put it on Partey, that I thought was maybe there was some blame there as well. But essentially it's one bad game from Saliba. You can put it down to rustiness, and it didn't cost us in the end. But I just thought the constant learning of how to recycle the ball and get it back to he who shall not be named, then Partey dinks it, then Odegaard does something, that constant ramping up of pressure over a very confined period of time, I thought was really impressive from Arsenal.
Yeah, and Arsenal have done that now against Tottenham in the second half.
Yes.
1-1 at half time, and really it was the second half. Okay, they got a red card, but we were 2-1 up at that point, and we just death by 1,000 passes. Same against Liverpool. I remember thinking, oh God, here we are. We're 3-2 up against Liverpool, 20 minutes to go. We scored the pen. and we're going to have to really hold on for this. But actually, we just kept moving it around, kept passing the ball, kept making them work for it. And then the one that impressed me most was Stamford Bridge. Again, you're away at Chelsea this time. The crowd, you know, you're thinking they're going to get behind, 30 minutes to go. They're going to stick it on you now because this is it. That sometimes football matches and the way it goes is just dictated by, well, what both teams need. Arsenal had what they needed. They're 1-0 up. Chelsea needed a goal. But no, if anything, we look more like scoring. So that ability to sustain attacks and just keep the game controlled and just in the area of the pitch we want is so impressive. And it's also what I'm saying on Twitter, and they're so right. You know, the minute Zinchenko came on, I don't know about you guys, but I just felt so comfortable because you just knew he could come in and we'd keep possession and we'd keep moving it around, and that was it.
Listen, great you brought that up, James, because I think he made an influence in that game without even playing, because the game was 1-0 down. He come out for the warm up, and he went straight up to the North Bank and started encouraging them. Like, I've never seen that from a player before. And the crowd started roaring and getting behind the team, and you know what I mean. And it was like he just ran up. You know, he was just jogging up, and you know, and then he just went, come on, and the crowd reacted to that. And then he brought that onto his performance as well. That's a substitute, you know. I was so impressed with that, and he did get the crowd up. We was 1-0 down when he done that. I'm not saying that he was the one that won us the game, but like that just shows you what we've got with this team. You know what I mean? I don't know if you noticed it when Eddie scores, all the substitutes are all piling on there as well. Like I always think that's a good thing, because substitutes going to be disappointed they're not playing, but you can tell that there is a real group of, they're all in it together, like, you know. And one of the great, like, you know, it's not the greatest thing. I've had all my Spurs relatives around over the of Christmas, of course, and you know, as I was going to the game, that you know, I hope you have a good day, but I hope you lose. You know what I mean? Those little snidey comments that Spurs fans do. Apparently, I hate West Ham, but there they are cheering on the Hammers. You know what I mean? So this is great. Like, you know, when I got home, they was all really doom and gloom, and I actually talking to them. They turned around and said, I hate to admit this. I love it when they say that, Spurs fans. I hate to admit this, but you're a good team. You're a really good team. And like they're going, the way you win the ball back, the way you do this, the way you do that. And you do see it differently as a fan, because I'm going to that game, you know what I mean, worried that we're 5 points clear. Do you know what I mean? Like, but we're worried our momentum's going to, you know, we're going to lose to Brighton now. We're going to do this. Other teams that don't have that invested sort of interest, you know what I mean? Like, because I hope you know what I mean. They was just, I said, you know, at 1-0 down, and I asked a question. I said, at 1-0 down, did you think like, you know, we come back and one of them turned around and said, if it was in the 89th minute, I might have started getting a little bit comfortable, but you was always winning that game. You know, and I love that. That's from Spurs fans, you know what I mean? So we are doing something right. You know, we've all just spoke about it and all that, but when opposition fans are saying it, oh, I thought it was all going to go now. You lost Jesus, nothing changed. That's what one of them turned around and said, like, you know what I mean? I thought we might, but nothing changed. I like that.
Can I just make 2 quick points? On Lee makes a really good point. I wanted to mention, actually, I forgot, but he's reminded me. Another thing that I was impressed by, another basketball term, turnovers. The amount of time he won the ball back, just Brilliant. Cleanly, like just really good tackles. Not even like, I was just really impressed in that first half in particular. The amount of times we just won the ball back really cleanly and really well. I was really impressed with. And just going back to Nketiah, the point I forgot to make, which I was going to make, is we're being very complimentary about Nketiah, and rightfully so. But if this team think they can win the Premier League, they have to buy. Nketiah, as good as he is, he's not going to spearhead Arsenal to a title challenge, to a title win. He just won't. He's of a certain level, but if the board and the manager feel that this team can win the Premier League, they have to go and sign a striker in this window coming up. They have to, because Nketiah can do a job. I think with Nketiah, I think we're confident that we can wrap up a top 4 spot. He doesn't win the title. We don't win we do not win this league with Nketiah at the helm for the 2 or 3 months Jesus is out. So for me, if they believe that they can win this league, they have to buy a striker in the window. And I'm not talking about Mudryk. I'm talking about a striker. They have to get a striker in if they believe they can win the title.
Can I just make one point as well? Another point, forgetting about Eddie and all that. I've got to say this now. How good was Ben White again?
Yeah.
I've got to say this now. You know what I mean? If you know, I don't blame him. I'll actually put it out there. I don't blame him. When I watched Dyer the game before, and if he's getting in front of him, I don't care whether he's a right back or not, he's not playing for England. This is on Southgate now for not giving him, you know what I mean? So he is by far England's best defender at this moment in time. I don't care what anybody says. I thought he was absolutely superb, you know. And do you know what I'm going to say this about him now? I think he can play anywhere. I think he's that good. I think he's just got ability. He's very, very calm on the ball, which, by the way, Maguire gets all the sort of praise for. He brings the ball out. How many times did he bring the ball out from defence into midfield and comfortably pass and things like that? And when he has to defend, he defends. I tell you what, I don't know if you see that. Benrahma, he done one run, which I thought, my God, how fast is he? He done this and done that. But did he get past Ben White? Not really. No. Who gets past Ben White? Probably like unbelievable performance.
He's actually making me think he might be a better right back than a centre back. He is impressing me at right. You know, I've had my reservations about Ben. Not reservations, but I've not been totally sold on Ben White. You're right to flag him. He was good again. He was good again. He was comfortable.
I think something come out recently that was it Arteta that said, maybe James can confirm, but something come out recently that said it was always the plan when he came in that he'd move to the right back slot once Saliba came in. So credit to Arteta, I think, and Edu.
He would say that.
He managed well. He managed But it was so flawless. I think me and James even spoke about it in the summer. As soon as Saliba came in, he was straight in at centre back.
True.
He was straight in there. First pre-season friendly, no messing about. Ben White then moved to right back, and considering, well, Tomiyasu wasn't fit and ready in pre-season, but considering we had a right back that a lot of us seemed happy with, more than content with, for Ben White to be moved immediately there and maintain his space from that first pre-season friendly up until now, I think that is testament to the bigger picture and the bigger plan moving forward.
Sorry, go on.
No, I mean his performances go under the radar, and long may that continue. I think Lee is definitely right to flag it, but you know, as long as he keeps performing the way he's performing, I don't care. I don't care who notices him and who doesn't. He's an Arsenal player. We spent big on him, and he's achieving.
Yeah, and I am starting to think more and more that he can play midfield. I mean, that little touch for the third goal, you know, he just sort of dinks it past Benrahma. I mean, there was a few nutmegs. I mean, the close control in tight spaces and the composure suggests he could, you know, easily play in midfield if ever needed. That's probably the only other position I could see him actually getting genuine minutes in. But the fact that he's, you know, excelling. I thought he had a good season last year. Then he had an amazing season. I thought he had a good season. You know, I think he's absolutely excelling at right back. I sort of, not that I'd want to test this. I mean, I love William Saliba, but I'd like to see him at centre back now, just for a game to see how he'd be. You know, would he be quite as brilliant? Is it something to do with the fact that also you get spoiled a lot? Do you remember there was one moment in the watch along where we were kind of watching Arsenal sort of pass around the midfield, and we were like, "Where's Ben White?"
Yes,
and then just in behind, and it was like, you know, the fact that we've got that as well. I'm really, really happy for him, and he does just kind of go through the game quite understated. He's kind of like, I don't know if he's had a less than 8 out of 10 performance this season, or less than a 7 or 8 out of 10, but you know, there's kind of always another that's been a 9 in the game. He's been one of the top 3 players of the season so far for Arsenal. So I'm absolutely delighted for him.
7-8 every game so far this season. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. There was a bit in the first half. I don't know if you remember it when they bombarded us over on the right hand side, and I actually turned around and we dealt with it fantastically well. And probably no one would recognise it. No one would say it, like, you know. But 2 years ago, with Mustafi and Bellerin there, we would have been all over the shop. But we snuffed it out, dealt with it. It was Ben White and Saliba. I think Ben White made it was a very, very good deep cross. Ben White made the header. Saliba cleared it. They made it look simple. We haven't had that for a very, very long while. Defenders making things look simple. We are a very, very good defensive side now. We've been shaky over the few years, and it's, you know what I mean, with players. But these guys, when it matters, defend well. I thought we had a couple of shaky moments, certainly in the first half, and they looked very, very dangerous on the break. But what was very, very good about that performance was second half, we snuffed it out. They caused us a few problems in the first half, winning headers and all that. But I'm pretty sure Arteta got onto them and said, right, now, come on, do your jobs. This is what you get paid for. And we didn't crumble, boys. We said, right, okay, yeah, we do. And you have to have that base. If you go on and win games 3-1 and things like that, you have to have that base where you've got to defend solid and defend high up, risk defending, you know what I mean? Like, but we do that. Now, I've seen Arsenal in the past, when things have gone on us, drop. And then that allows things to happen. We go, all right, okay, no, we're going to back ourselves and we're going to push forward and defend. And I think that Ben White's got to take a lot of credit for that. I actually thought, if you look on it, I thought Tierney had a tough evening. Yeah. And he's a proper left back, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not having a go at him here when I say this. He had a tough evening. He come through it in the end, but it was tough. Ben White strolled through it. Strolled through it. You know, big up to him, like, you know. I mean, I think he's better than. I know Saliba's getting a great praise out, but if I was to say, right, who's been the best player in midfield this season, you've got to debate. You know, you've got to debate who's out the front three: Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus. Our best defender this season for me has been Ben White.
Jordan,
I agree.
That's a good debate. That is.
Gabriel and Saliba both made a few mistakes over the season. I don't remember a Ben White one. Off the top of my head.
No, I think Lee's probably right there. I think yeah.
Unusual, but yeah, he is right.
Jordan, I wanted to ask what you made of Arsene Wenger being back.
I thought it was interesting.
Great point.
The timing. Apparently, the players didn't know he was going to be there until the fans started cheering, and it was on the big screen. Yeah, I don't watch all the fan cams, but I watched Dan Potts when I like Dan Potts. And I saw he made a point that he thinks that maybe there's something happening there where he may be integrated into the club again in some form. Maybe. I don't know what kind of role he would play, especially being the role that he has at FIFA. I know there's a possible conflict there. I don't know. Or if it was just a case of, look, the club just thought, bygones be bygones. He, thought bygones be bygones. Let's head in. But it was good to see him there. Really good to see him there. I'm glad the fans gave him the chant and the sing song that he deserved. I've always got a bit of a slight hesitation about calling him a footballing legendary manager, an Arsenal legend for sure. I'm not quite sure if he's in the Premier League manager legend bracket. If I'm honest, it's a debate for me. But it ended poorly for Arsene Wenger. But let's not forget that he's probably our most successful manager ever, and what he gave to us. And let's just remember that. And I think it was good to have him there. Good to acknowledge him. It'd have been good to get him on the pitch at half time, maybe. But maybe I'd have been a bit too cheesy. I don't know. But yeah, good. I'm happy. I'm glad he should be back. There should be a stand named after him, in my opinion. So it was good.
Yeah, I wasn't. So I was also chatting to Dan about that on Full Time. I thought it was very interesting. It's not the first time we've heard things like that. I think even Arteta's alluded to, maybe something like that in the future. Maybe I think well over a year ago that was discussed, or that was sort of a rumor. But I think at the time I'd have said, maybe like a year ago, I'd have said, yeah, why not? I mean, I'm sure he's still got a lot to offer, blah blah. But I really liked his return, and I thought it was perfect. And I know actually, I kind of want that to be that.
I
He
agree.
comes back to the
Yeah, I'm with
Emirates
you.
every now and
I
again.
agree. Yeah.
He watches the games. He had access to the changing room after to meet the players, and that's fantastic. I love all that. Give him the keys. Let him, go where he wants. Rock up to London Colney wherever he fancies it. I've got no problem with that. But I actually prefer that rather than things are going amazing, right? Things change in football very, very quickly. A couple bad transfer windows, or Arsenal are languishing in third, fourth, they're not really kicking on. I think questions start to be asked of everyone. The players, Arteta, people upstairs, what are they doing? And I just think more than ever we look beyond just managers and players. And I'm sort of, I don't really want, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't really want Arsene Wenger to be a part of all that again. I just like him coming back
once a season, just come to the ground, wave to the fans. Yeah, I'm with you, James.
I just think with Arsene Wenger, it was, I'm going to say it, classy. I just think he's class.
It was
I think
classy, yeah.
He's come 4 years. He's come when Arsenal are on form, playing well. So there's none of that what's gone at Man United over the last few years, seeing Ferguson there. Not having a go at Alex Ferguson when he's going there, but it puts pressure on. I don't care what anybody says. Arsene Wenger's stayed away from it. I think that there's still a few fans that won't forgive him for what he's done or whatever at this moment of time. Time is a healer. And I think that it was the perfect timing. You know what I mean? Like when things are going well, he come along. And do you know what else? He didn't make no song and dance about it. No one knew he was there.
Classy.
It's classy. He could have gone around and like made himself visible earlier on, and he didn't. He just sneaked in at the back there, watched the game, and it wasn't until someone put the camera on him that they see it. And I just think that just shows you what he's like. Yes, he probably did stay too long in the job and all that, but and we've all criticised him. Lots of fans have criticised him for that. But ultimately, he has been a fantastic manager for Arsenal. I will say that he changed the Premier League in my eyes, and just a fitting game for him to come back to, But and I'm probably like they've asked him to come back at times, and do you know what he's probably thought? Yeah, I could come back, but the team's not quite where I want it to be for him to do that. And I just think it was,
I think there was some tension between him and the club. I don't think it ended particularly
they
well.
Was there but they was there as well, Josh Kroenke and.
But that's what I mean. I think they've made up
he
now.
Still turned up for that game.
That's true, but I think the reason why he's not been back to the Emirates is not so much.
I think there's a little bit of that.
I think he didn't like the way that he was he feels. I think he was hounded out. He was forced out. And I think that for a few years was a bit of a sore spot.
And I can understand that, but he's forgiven that. And I just think it was just perfect timing. I have to say that.
The timing was really good. Sorry. The timing was really good because, I mean, listen, Arteta can't predict that we're going to win 3-1. It's going to be entertaining, but he came back for the Boxing Day match. We'd all been away for a while. I think while the fans have been amazing all season, I mean, doesn't that just lift you even more when you do see Wenger pop up on the screen? And there's little things that Graham mentioned in Tactical Insight, like Eddie, he gave Eddie his debut, and little things like that, and he gets his goal, and Hareland as well, playing their big part in that win. And there was just kind of a lot that Thierry Henry in the building as well, covering it for Amazon Prime, and he got to chat to Saka and Arteta as well. It was a kind of a really perfect day, and you had the Mudryk stuff. We haven't even covered that, probably won't have time to, but the Mudryk stuff was another thing that kind of came out before that. And I think all these things were really good for Arsenal in terms of just picking up momentum again and almost like injecting that feel good factor straight back in, because after a break you can have the best fans in the world. It is difficult after 5-6 weeks off, an injury to your key player, and that tension. Okay, so where's everything going to be? I think all these things were brilliant. The performance on the pitch from the players fantastic, and then everything surrounding it, I think, was
James,
really important as well.
Sorry, Tony, I don't run it short on time, but James just talking there. It actually was the perfect evening. 1-0 down, came back. Wenger's there, Henri's there, Nketiah scores, Jesus was there as well, just kind of just see and support the side. Apparently at halftime, he was supporting the guys and talking them up as well. You know, an evening game, good goals. It was probably, you know, the Mudryk thing coming out. It probably was the perfect evening in a way. Everything kind of went our way. You know, Spurs lose or drawing earlier in the day. It was, you know, it was a brilliant.
Well,
day,
except for Turkish getting a score right, it was perfect.
Apart from that, it was a brilliant.
Listen, on Arsene Wenger, and before we get into scores and prediction tables and all that, I'm not sure I brought it up already, but I'm going to make sure I bring it up again. On Arsene Wenger, I've got a
shameless Turkish.
It is what it is. On Arsene Wenger, I've got a bit of stick about, you know, saying that it's good to see him back, because obviously a lot of people know how I felt about him towards the end. I was, you know, very much you know, against him continuing his management at Arsenal because of, you know, where we was and continually being top four. And I put a lot of that blame on the Kroenkes, as people know, but I just felt like Wenger was the shield to it all. And over time, that kind of told me that, you know, enough was enough. But I want people to understand, you know, you all mentioned timing, and timing is key here. Arteta's managed to refresh the whole squad since Wenger's left. There's one player in the starting 11 from the Wenger era, and that's Xhaka. And he's reinvented Xhaka as well. He's
and Nketiah.
Nketiah.
Sure, yeah, I know you mean.
You know, young player. He's got rid of the Mustafis and the Ozils and the Bellerins and the players that really, in my opinion, caused, you know, Wenger's downfall in the end. He trusted them players, and them players really let him down, let us down, let the club down. But the timing is perfect because, you know, it's a new era now. I'm not saying this new era is going to take us to the league, but it's a new era of hope and belief. Mm-hmm. And that is what it means to be a football fan, an Arsenal fan. You need to have hope. You need to have belief. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that dwindled under Wenger's last year. So I am glad to see him back. It is nice to see him back. I agree with James. I'd like to see it sporadically, you know, every season. Not too much. I'm not sure about a role in the club at the moment, considering how well it's going with the team in place now. But, you know, now I can look back and remember the good times. I don't want to be remembering the bad times. Yes, I will touch on the bad times if we have a poor January window, and I have to mention that Kroenkes haven't learned their lesson from those times we was finishing top four. I will mention it. But Arsenal this season and at points last season have made me, you know, concentrate on the new era, the future, more so than the past and the rot that was created. So I think in a timing sense, that was perfect as well for Arsene Wenger. And James mentioned, you know, Mudryk. We were not going to get a chance to talk about that, considering it will coming up to an hour now. We haven't even mentioned Odegaard, who, listen, credit to Jordan, who mentioned Partey and Xhaka, and in terms of winning the ball back and recycling the ball, they was key to that. But for me, Odegaard, a cut above the rest. I think someone that, you know, has had many doubters himself since he signed for Arsenal.
Is there a better midfield? Is there a better midfield in the Premier League now, apart from De Bruyne?
I'm inclined to say yes, but I don't know who. You know, current form. United fans would say Casemiro, but very different type.
Yes, that's a CDM though, isn't it? So
yeah,
we're talking attacking midfielder, number 10.
Almiron.
Definitely a shout. Almiron definitely a shout. But listen, Odegaard's a conductor. He's someone, I've mentioned it, cultured. He's someone that, you know, in the first half, he was the standout for me. He was trying to pick the locks. It wasn't working. But second half, you know, take shots and you might score goals. And he took a shot. It was a misplaced shot, but it lands right into Saka's path. And that's what gets us back into the game, within 5 minutes of the second half starting. And then, you know, he got the assist for the third goal too. He was the catalyst for most of our moves. That nutmeg on Paqueta, I think. Was it Paqueta?
Yeah,
I think it was Paqueta, the nutmeg. Even down to when Souček was sitting on the ball and then he went and just lifted Souček's leg off. It was just a bit of shithousery as well from him. So for me, Odegaard was man of the match clear. I know Eddie scored a goal. I know Saka brought us back into it. I know Ben White was great. But for me, Odegaard was a cut above the rest. And I'm glad he's finally kind of getting the numbers that people are asking for him to get alongside the performances.
We're going to discuss this very super briefly. The game, the Brighton game. Just I know we're running 1 seconds now. Yeah, because I didn't think a performance was important against West Ham. Just a result. We actually got both, in my opinion. But I think this is a game where the performance is important. I think Brighton are not a joke team. Brighton are a serious team on a good run of form. Well, I say that. I think they were playing well before the World Cup started.
They beat Southampton 3-1.
No, but before the World Cup, I can't remember the results before the World Cup. So
I mean, they were solid for sure.
It's an important game where we're gonna have to bring our A game. Because Brighton they're not a joke. They're not West Ham, put it that way. Yeah. So, and City, the time we're recording, Manchester City are playing tonight, and I think they'll beat Leeds. So they're the yardstick. We need to keep that 5-point buffer for me. But by the time we get to the Man City game, that's my target for now. Try and keep a 4 or 5 point buffer before you get to the City game.
Yeah. I mean, what's Brighton's manager? Is it De Zerbi? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's come in and kind of slotted in after part seamlessly, if not better, much better than expected. So, and their first game back, 3-1 away win against Southampton. Listen, Southampton are the greatest side. They're in the relegation zone, but when you're away from home, a 3-1 win is always welcomed. Listen. Last season, we tended to go into lineups and thoughts for the next game, but I think the lineup picks itself. There's not much thought that needs to go into that. So I will bring the league table up again. There we have it.
No, we got a smile from me.
I got a smile.
I know the point's getting knocked off because I know Sharoy's the man.
Listen, Sharoy, I just want to add to my defense that I've got a 2-year-old son as well, and it will absolutely kill him.
Shameless.
I've been telling him
absolutely shameless. Using his little son to try and get these points on the board. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
I actually think you should just have a point deducted for that.
I can hear him crying now. Uncle Lee wants a point taken off. I told you he's a bad man. I told you about it.
He's just woken it up now to make a joke.
Cool. So a little change to proceedings. I'm top of the league, so I'm going to go first with prediction.
Can I just say, before you predict Turkish, I've already got my score in my head. So just so you know, I'm not copying any of yours. I've got my score in my head. So if it happens to be the same as your score, I'm just saying, sorry, but not sorry. Sorry, go on.
I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal. 2-1 Arsenal. Jordan, please change the score in your head. Please change the score in your head.
It's not my turn yet. It's not my turn yet.
2-1 to the Arsenal. Lee?
That's what I was going to go with, 2-1. I'm going to change that now to 2-0.
Clean sheet.
I also thought 2-0. Brighton are that kind of team that the way they play, I think if we're on it, and we're really on it, then I think we'll beat them. I really do. But we're slightly off it. Becomes a little bit of an open game. They can really hurt you.
Also, defensively, we're much, much better away from home than we are at home.
That is true.
We can see goals like we can see more goals at home. So I was going to go 2-1, but I knew that he was going to say that, so I thought I had it in the background for a 2-0. Come on, you Gunners, 2-0.
You've jinxed it now, so we're probably going to concede 2.
No, James, stick with me, son. Stick with me.
I'm going to trust the team. They've earned that. 2-0 Arsenal.
Okay, so I've gone 2-1. Lee and James have gone 2-0. Jordan?
Is McAllister back yet?
I think he should be.
Yeah, he should be back for this one.
It's a whole 5-6 days after the last.
Yeah, he should be.
And if they're not, by the way, they're having a very good time.
It's like a 2-week party, yeah.
Would you want to go back to Brighton after winning a World Cup?
True. Turkish, sorry, mate. It was 2-1. I had in my head.
James, we're moving on up. It was quite lasted, Turkish.
My son's crying again. That's it.
I'll let you off that point deduction now, like, because you're going to lose some now anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
He's always trying to bring top spot down. What have we done, mate?
Sorry, mate. Yeah, 2-1 Arsenal, I think.
Can I just say, Jordan, you've got.
No,
to
you
get
can't. No,
one
you
right.
can't, James. No, you can't. You can't say it. You can't say it.
You've got to get one right at some point.
You'd think, wouldn't you? You'd think.
Yeah, but not this one, James. Not this one now. We don't want this one coming up, I'll tell you.
Did you get any right last season?
No.
No.
We did cup as well.
What? So, through or not? No, they'll get knocked out. Well, they're through. You didn't get
As you round up. What you say, James?
Do you know he lost the raffle once, Jordan, right? This is true, right? Jordan, he told me this the other day. He lost the raffle, right? He was the only one that had a ticket. You know what I mean? He's the only one that bought the ticket and he still lost.
Oh.
I'm going to wrap it up now because it's 5 minutes past the hour and I can see, backgrounds causing a bit of an issue for Lee and Jordan. I know I was late.
Yeah, they're all waking up now. They're all waking up, my ass.
There you go. Perfect timing. Just for the audio listeners, I am top 21 points after a correct score. Lee is in second place, 20 points. James is in third on 18 points, and Jordan sits in fourth on 15 points after 22 games played, 22 predictions. We'll see how that ends, and we'll see what Shiroi makes of the point deduction. Like I said, you're my brother, Shiroi. So
come on, Shiroi, man. Do the right thing. You know what makes sense.
I'm your brother, like, fixing the post. You know what I mean?
Are we doubling up on comments of the week next week then?
Well, I've got comments of the week actually.
Have we got time to squeeze it in? Or?
I've got one right here.
I won't lie, I forgot. So take it away, everyone.
Slacker.
I know.
Let me get mine up on my thing.
Matthew says, things I look out for. Does Lee know he's live? And did Jordan watch the game?
You bastard.
I went with, I think he's Mean, whatever his name is. After this, I'm going to watch the rewatch pod where Lee doesn't know he's live. Like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. That's harsh. I got 2 quick ones. I got one here from Hanad. Love for the love, my 5 brothers. That was nice. Just like the manager said, we're ahead of the process, but we need to take advantage of the January windows. Please let it not be a typical January window, because the potential is huge. Big up and bless up Lee, Turkish, Jordan, and the young talent, of course, James. That's from Hanad there. And the other one I got here was, I read it out loud. I was like, this Jordan guy is dope. And I was like getting all excited, thinking like, yeah, thank you very much. And then I reread it. I know this Jordan guy is a dope. Bastard. Yeah, cheers.
That was definitely the best one. I'll even say that myself.
and that was from Shiroi. You know what I mean?
Oh, mate. Listen, apologies to Jordan, Lee, and most importantly, James, for keeping you lot waiting this morning. But yeah, it won't happen again since the punishments are apparently coming in. So I have to avoid that now. On top of the league, I can't afford to drop any points. But yeah, we move people. We'll be back. Special Sunday, 1st of January. We are live right here on AFTV, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. this Sunday, 1st of January. We'll review the Brighton game. We'll preview the Newcastle game that's coming up shortly after that. So make sure you join us here, engage with us, because we don't do lives often, but it's going to be live this Sunday. So make sure you're here, people, 7 p.m. and enjoy the new year. Many blessings to everyone out there. Enjoy it. Make sure you do enjoy, and make sure you enter the new year in the right way, both mentally and physically. So yeah, love for the love, people. Hit the like button on the way out. Let's get up to 1,000 likes as usual. Your comments for comments of the day this Sunday. We'll be live right here, 7 p.m. Love for the love. Peace.